Hi there, everyone. I'm doing this video because of a issue I've been working on personally, and I think I'm really making some progress. And I think it's probably affecting a lot more people than people let on, which is just overall balance and control of your compulsive actions. When you have things like anxiety under the surface, it's really easy to develop these habits as coping mechanisms or maybe just avoidance or whatever. And you do one after the other, and before you know it, you're a cigarette smoker or you're just chronically expecting something bad to happen or something like that. And it's really because you haven't put all the pieces together in your life. It's like driving a car and all the parts aren't there. So the suspension is wobbling around and you're barely making it when really if you put the pieces together, you could be, a race car zooming and living your life the way you want to. And that's the real why here, is if I'm at my best, I am that race car. That's why this issue is important. If I'm at my best, the way I most commonly look at it, and it may be a little silly, but when I'm at my best, I'm like a Jedi, and you have to hear me out on this one, because if you can ever think of a time where you've been, maybe in a social situation, and for some reason you were just having a great day, you were in a great mood, you were sharp, and it was like all your jokes they just landed and people that you like were there, people that sort of, but you wanted to a little bit impress, just make a good impression. You just nailed it. That's what I'm talking about. Whereas, if I have this anxious, disempowered mindset because all the pieces of my life aren't there, I'm not going to perform well. And that goes for work. It goes for when you're in a crisis, you want to be the best version of yourself. When you're cultivating and maintaining relationships you do. And you really want to be in the best mindset when making big life decisions. So if you're on the verge of moving to a different city, of quitting your job, basically switching your lifestyle, maybe it's having a kid or another kid or anything like that, you want to align yourself to where you're not making those big impact decisions when you are in a state of imbalance and your actions are not intentional, they are compulsive. So that's the why. And it's important to find your fixations maybe that throw you off a little bit. I know when I get really into something, I'll neglect other areas of my life, and that's fine as long as it's balanced. And it's also, I'm not talking about perfect discipline. You know, I'm talking about when we get these building blocks in place, then that's when you're able to be that best version of yourself and make the best decisions for yourself. So to really get into it, I'm going to talk about the tree, and it's a book I'm going to pull up and show you in just a second. I want to preface it. I was at a professional conference in Dallas for my last job this past year, and a speaker by the name of Matt Osborne, great guy. His presentation, his breakout session, it just landed. It hit me right between the eyes, and it was exactly what I needed to hear. He talked about discipline, but before he even got into discipline, this was like his bridge into his actual topic. But when he said it, I was like, let me write this down. What was that again? What was that list? He's getting into the topic of discipline, and he's saying, most people, if they eat well, sleep okay, do something they love for 30 minutes, say their prayers, and sweat for 15 minutes a day, if they do those 5 things every day, they're going to be fine. And I was in a state when I was putting too much effort into the job and it was leading into some negative habits. I wasn't making intentional decisions. I was being compulsive in a lot of my decisions about what I did and how I did it. And that just landed with me right there. And he said, when you are disciplined, you can run circles around these undisciplined F star 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 S. Very, very good speaker. Language was not an issue in that speech. That was just a funny thing he said. But that's really the idea, is that, you know, in our soul, or our mind, or our life, whatever term you want to use, we have this meat and potatoes, as you will, and those are really the basic things. But what it comes down to, is I actually visited this therapist for a while because she had a book. I figured it'd be like a college class. You know, I read the book and then I come back and talk to the professor, therapist, psychologist, and discuss it. And I'll try to get a good view in the camera here. It's called Soul Health. And the tree is the big thing here, because you can kind of see when I put it up to the camera. I know the light's glaring a little bit, but each branch, you know, you have recreational right here, financial right here. She even includes sexual in here. I guess that applies to people who are in relationships. Spiritual, psychological, physical, intellectual / occupational, environmental, and social. So when I stumbled on this notion with her, I realized that I had been a Division I college runner, and I had to, I had broken a bone. Long story. Ran through it for years, and finally got a surgery, and that was like the nail in the coffin of like a 6-year battle with this injury, where I literally would, prescribe my own stuff, go into the doctor's office with a dossier this thick and a backpack full of inserts I've been making and tools I've been using, and tell him what I want, type of thing. So it was a full-on obsession. And when the injury happened, my house of cards collapsed. And it really made me fixate on this, because I realized, my social branch was tied to running, my physical, environmental, basically my occupational and intellectual, because I was also coaching a couple of teams throughout my college career. Recreational, definitely. Really, the only thing it didn't land for me was financial, but I was going to find a way to make that work, when you're obsessed with something like that. So basically, I didn't build up any of these other branches with anything other than running. So when it all collapsed, it was not a very good period for me. And that's what has made me really intentionally go after piece by piece here. So what I want to talk about are some of the most important things that I think are included for any given person. Number one, I would say, assuming that your basic needs are met, you have a roof over your head, you have enough food to eat. Even if you don't, physical exercise, just particularly aerobic, so getting your heart rate between 120 and 160 for a period of, even 10 minutes, but really 30 is the ideal. Unless you're really trying to build fitness, then you can go above 30 minutes at that period. But yeah, just heart rate 120 to 160, getting that exercise. Daily obviously is best, but if I'm not talking about high expectations here. If it's once a week, it's once a week. If it's 2 or 3 times a week, that's even better. But any physical activity, really. I point out aerobic as the best, obviously, because I'm a runner and I'm a running coach. But any physical activity, definitely. The other one is social. If I am in a negative state, I tend to isolate myself, which is very, very easy to do. So I find that when I'm not in a great state of mind and my phone starts ringing and it's a friend, I have a rule where I have to answer it. I don't give myself the option, because, if you're religious or spiritual, it's the universe tapping on my shoulder and trying to dislodge me from the thing I'm at. So making plans, but making plans with the right people. So when I went out of work, I had quit my last job with not much savings. I'd worked at my father's shop for a few years previously, his business he owns, and he brought me back into that business. Just for about a month while I was looking for another job, I continued what I used to do when I worked for him. But we originally parted ways because our relationship became toxic. We could not work together, that relationship. And now that's where I'm back right now. So I have to put a lot of intentional effort to just not let it mentally blow me out and make me useless. But what I've been doing is calling friends that remind me of my ambitious side. When I was running at my peak of my performance, those friends, because they have an image of me that I need to remind myself of. When you lose a significant other, when you lose a job for one reason or another, or you just move to a different part of the country or something like that, and you leave a part of yourself behind because you're reinventing. Well, if your reinventing doesn't go as good as you had in terms of your friends and your social status and your financial status in a previous situation, then you can start to change the view of yourself. And that's how you lose yourself, basically. And you lose yourself to compulsive habits, to negative thought patterns, and disempowerment. So I get on the phone with people that know me as very ambitious, juggling half a dozen projects at the same time and doing well on all of them. And just keeping connection with them, it keeps that spirit, it keeps your energy, because especially if you're a competitive person, if you're contacting these people regularly, you don't want to just say, yeah, well, I've been spending time alone and blah, 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 blah. Not really getting anything done. Excuse me. So we have the physical, I really think, as often as possible in your schedule, and the social. Honestly, the best thing to do is to not make those two, the physical and the social, codependent, but to try to mix them together. So get someone to go to the gym with you. Go play basketball on Wednesday nights with XYZ person, whoever. Go to a morning spin class with someone and get on the fitness train together. So those two, the social and the physical. And for me, the last one is intellectual or occupational. I know a lot of people don't take their work all that seriously, but when I'm doing something, it's like maybe it's like a little bit of OCD. I have to be learning something. I have to be engaging my mind. Otherwise, I start to climb up the walls in here. So that's probably more on the back burner, because I think that might be more particular to me. But finding a way to basically to kind of feel like you're building yourself, personal development. That's the one, that's why I still try to read books. I try to limit my social media time, because it really is the opposite of mindfulness, social media. That's the way the whole system is designed. It's like a ping pong table or a pinball board, in terms of your attention span, and that's the way they want it, because that's how they get their ad revenue and people to stay on their site for a long time. So limiting social media, finding good books. You can even tie the intellectual in with the social, by hanging out with people who give you illuminating conversations. That's a very viable way to achieve that. Probably the best way that I found to intellectually engage was my sister and I a year ago traveled to India. Shoot, man, it's almost 2 years ago now. Year and a half. Time. We went to India for 2 weeks. Met some people online through a video game we played for years with them, and that was just the most. That erased a bout of depression that had probably lasted about 6 months for me. You're a totally different person. You get that survival mode thing because you don't know what's going to happen, especially in a country that's not necessarily first world, especially some of the places we went to. But no, I mean, it doesn't have to be something that extreme. Just something that you engages you. To go back to Matt Osborne's list, eat, sleep, exercise, do something you love for 30 minutes. that was one that was very, very difficult for me because I was not even thinking about that. And then what do I enjoy? Um, yeah, eat, sleep, sweat, do something you love for 30 minutes and say your prayers. I even put a grid on my whiteboard that I look at right before I leave the house. And it's got Monday through Friday here, and then eat, sleep, sweat, blah, blah, blah down there. And I'm supposed to check every day. And really, if you actually discipline yourself, ironically, it's a discipline chart, um, then you will actually see a correlation to when you check those boxes and when you have good days. So there's really just a couple of building blocks that need to exist in your life, and if they do, you'll be able to bring out that best version of yourself. If your partner in your relationship has something that they need to deal with, it's a situation, a crisis, or a conflict. You want to be able to bring that calm, thoughtful, forbearing version of yourself, or if you have a difficult project at work or you have to lead people or what have you, we're capable of amazing things, and our natural state is not one of aggression, of stress, of anxiety. Our natural state, when we can align these factors in our lives, is very positive. We seek positive things for ourselves and for others. Obviously, there's some outliers and counterexamples to that point. But I truly believe that for the average person, when we put these building blocks in place, it turns out to be very, very, very beneficial for everyone involved. So thanks for watching. If you have any references, articles, or books, I'd love to see those in the comments. I also have my blog page, which is mindfulperspectiveblog.com. Mindful Perspective on Facebook. I'm not on any other platforms right now, but I would love to hear your feedback, and hope this is helpful, and hope this reaches some of you guys. So have a great day, and we'll see you next time.